Hello? Hello? How's everyone doing? I'd like to welcome everyone to the President's Pro Bono Service Awards. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Rezwan al-Islam. I'm the Deputy Executive Director at Nassau Suffolk Law Services, which is the largest provider of free civil legal services on Long Island. I'm also the co-chair of the President's Committee on Access to Justice. Thank you for joining us today as we honor these great pro bono attorneys who selflessly gave their time to help the less fortunate. The New York State Bar Association is one of the preeminent organizations in the country that is advocating advocating for the rule of law and advocating for the rule of law. And by recognizing pro bono service, we reaffirm our commitment to use the law to do the public good and move access to justice forward for everyone. And we thank NYSBA for taking a leadership role in that area. I'd like to welcome the new Chief Judge, Rowan Wilson. We take a moment just to honor the judge. Thank you so much for your years of service, and we're all really excited to see the courts continue to grow under your leadership. I'd also like to welcome Michael Freer, who is here from the United Kingdom and is serving as the thank you for joining us, Michael. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And then we talked a little bit just now about how we can increase access to justice using digital resources across to help expand our services to more remote areas. Thank you. And I'd also like to thank President Wallach for a great and amazing year under her leadership. She has been a great advocate to make sure that that the interests of all lawyers are heard, and that has been tirelessly working to increase access to justice for the poor. We really, really appreciate it. Without further delay, I'd like to welcome Richard Lewis, President-elect, to the stage, and it's been my honor to serve beside him as the co-chair for the President's Committee on Access to Justice over the last year.
And it's been my honor to serve with Rez. He runs a very, very solid meeting. So good afternoon and welcome to Law Day. This is a big deal. Law Day is a celebration of our courts, of our profession. And we have with us today so many judges. I'm a little bit awed by the quality of professionals that we have here today. Not to be redundant, but I want to again welcome Judge Rowan Wilson and congratulate you on your new position. I also want to welcome Judge Caitlin Halligan, our newest associate judge, and wish you well in your new career. In addition, Judge Canatero, who's done a magnificent job in keeping our courts together during some very trying times. And then, of course, Judge Garcia and Judge Rivera and Judge Singas and Judge Troutman. It's really a pleasure to have you all here, as well as all of the other judges that are here from both the appellate division and the trial bench. Not to sound a little hokey, but these are the people that protect our democracy. These are the people that we depend on, and long live the courts in the state of New York. I also want to say one other thing in the way of thank yous, and that's to our staff here at the New York State Bar Association. People walk into our different functions and they think that it's just here. Everything's fine. The bar is set up. The plans were a piece of cake. No problem. That's not the case. We have some of the most amazing people here, and they definitely deserve a round of applause. So our Bar Association has been in existence since 1876, and during that period of time, we have been prime movers when it comes to working for justice, access to justice, and working with legislators and the courts in an attempt to make sure that our system of government continues to be strong. We've gone through periods where there are bumps in the road, but we've always come out in good shape because of people such as those who are receiving awards today. And we've had those people right along, and I'll mention a little bit more about that in a minute. This year, we've been working on a lot of different things that affect the bar. One of them is the 18B issue. And we have commenced a lawsuit, and we have been lobbying with our legislature for attorneys who represent the indigent to get paid, for God's sakes, to get paid more than $75 an hour so that they are in a position to volunteer their time to work on behalf of our indigent population. And without that, we are going to continue to see a growth in the have-nots in our justice system. And it would be a pretense to say that we don't have that type of a situation. We have some younger members here. They're called, I saw this, the Outlaw Group. Am I right? And they have been working with legal aid to help educate people about LGBTQ plus issues, and I think that their work has been incredible, and we thank you for doing that, and we look forward to you doing a lot more as you become more ensconced in our association. Now, all of us here today can remember in the recent past where we've heard criticisms of lawyers and the lawyer profession. We've heard a lot of lawyer jokes and so on. How many of us can say that we remember praise for the legal profession, for all that this legal profession does for our communities? I defy you to find a not-for-profit or an organization that works for the benefit of our communities that does not have lawyers on it. I defy you to find a lawyer in this room or elsewhere who has not become involved in issues that affect our community and our citizenry. And what we have today is an opportunity to praise the best of the best. The people that are here today that are getting awards today are people who are exemplary of what our profession stands for, and that's public service. We sure like to make a good living. There's no question about it. But our primary issue is to help our clients and to help our society. And that's what the people being honored today have done. And so I congratulate all of you. Pro bono work is an underpinning of this year's Law Day theme, and I apologize, Judge, the cornerstones of democracy, civics, civility, and collaboration. And for those of you who were not in the Court of Appeals, you missed a wonderful debate between Attorney General James and our Chief Judge, and they were both fabulous, and I absolutely agree with the judge because I agree with judges always. But access to justice, I think we can say, is definitely a cornerstone of our democracy. And without these judges and justices, we would be a little bit out in the cold. In any event, we want to get moving on this, and I want to introduce our president, Sherry Levin-Wallach, and ask her to come up. And as she comes up, I want to commend her on her having a very, very positive year. It's been a great year, and she's become a very good friend.
Good afternoon, everyone. I always worry when I get introduced with a giggle. I worry about what's going to come next. Pardon me. Anyhow, thank you, Dick. Thank you very much for your opening remarks and for your introduction. I'd like to welcome you all here to our beautiful bar center. It's really a pleasure every time I come to this room and see it filled with so many people working in our legal profession. Bringing together everything from our Court of Appeals to those individuals who are honoring today, who spend their time giving back to our communities and doing the most important work, which is the pro bono work. I want to welcome again, Chief Judge Rowan Wilson. You're going to get tired, but welcome, Judge. Of our Court of Appeals, and I also want to welcome again our newest member of the Court of Appeals, Associate Justice Caitlin Halligan. And I'd like to recognize the entire Court of Appeals for the incredible work that they've done and the honor that they've given me in working together with me this year. They have truly been a resource and a support for my presidency. So I want to thank the entire Court of Appeals for that. I also want to recognize our Chief Administrative Judge for Justice Initiatives, and I'm going to stop there, but your title is much longer than that because you do so much more than that. Judge Edwina Mendelson, thank you for being here. Because her work is focusing on so many of the people that you all in this room are representing. And her work is to make our court system support the representation of those people most in need, and most in need of access to justice, and most in need of support. So I thank you and your office for all its hard work. And I'd like to recognize the presiding justice of the Third Department. That's where we are right now. Judge Elizabeth Gary, thank you for your support this year as well. And for those of you who were here for the reception earlier, I want to thank our Attorney General, Letitia James, for coming here to the reception this evening. This afternoon. She had to leave for important business. But for those of you who weren't in the Court of Appeals, she is one of the most difficult people to follow speaking. She's absolutely phenomenal. And again, her support is so appreciated. I'd like to turn now to our international contingent. And I'd like to welcome Minister Michael Freer from the United Kingdom's Parliament. And Minister Freer and I have developed a relationship this year, meeting early on in my presidency and having the opportunity to work together. It has really been an honor to share experiences back and forth across the pond, as we like to call it. And it's wonderful to have the minister here, along with the members of the British Consul General's Office and the members of the Law Society of England and Wales. And I'd finally like to welcome our esteemed honorees, because without you, today would not be happening. And it's because of your work that we are here. And we do honor you, each and every one of you, for everything that you've done in your careers. We thank you for the commitment that you've made to pro bono service and to access to justice. And for those of you who've heard me speak, you know how important that is to not only me, but the mission of this entire organization. So thank you. It is a pleasure to be here, along with the honorees, with so many of those who work as legal service providers, because I work with you. As the Deputy Executive Director of the Legal Aid Society of Westchester County, I feel like I am amongst my closest peers. And I am thrilled every time we have an opportunity to be in a room together and exchange ideas and thoughts on how we can do better. Because I know that each and every one of you strive every day to do better and to persevere. And coming from legal aid, that means I'm in a room of friends. So thank you again for your diligence for our clients who are those who are the most in need. As Justice Sotomayor said, lawyers have a professional and moral duty to represent the underrepresented in our society, to ensure that justice exists for all, both legal and economic justice. Each of today's honorees exemplify how to live up to that duty. I am inspired by the many ways this year's nominees provide service. Many leave their day jobs and volunteer in a different field of law. There is the Manhattan corporate attorney who volunteers helping immigrants, and the Schenectady tax lawyer who volunteers at a local college. Those are just two of the many examples of attorneys making an impact on their communities. You are the best of our profession, and we honor you. You improve our profession and lead our attorneys in our state. You lead them and provide support to those New Yorkers who are most in need. Your work embodies the motto of my presidency, investing in the future of our profession. Because by doing this, you are doing just that every day. You are investing in the future of the legal profession by investing in the communities, because they are the lawyers to come. At the New York State Bar Association, we are working every day to improve the plight of children, the elderly, and the disabled. My task force on mental health and trauma-informed representation will be offering its final report in June, with recommendations on how to improve our state's mental health system. My task force on modernization of criminal practice will also be giving its report in June, with recommendations for sentencing reform, technology use in the criminal justice system, and the justice courts, which so many of you in this room know too well. We support the representation for people in housing court here at the New York State Bar Association. We have supported and continue to support immigration proceedings and representation in immigration proceedings. Through our President's Committee on Access to Justice, we continue to focus on how to improve justice. And I want to thank Rez for all the work he's done as co-chair of this committee and for today. The work of the Task Force on Emerging Digital Finance and Currency has made us recognized as leaders, educators, and innovators that in Web3, blockchain, and the metaverse, the law needs to be learned, developed, and it does exist. The work of my task force has strived to bring the legal community to understand the new technology so that we will be able to continue to provide the best representation to our clients. We continue to fight for the equality of the people living in the US territories and the overruling of the insular cases by my task force on the US territories. We have taken stands against the change of the notary regulations, which imposes unwieldy burdens on attorneys as notaries. We continue to explore the use of facial recognition technology and its impact on the practice of law. And as Dick mentioned, we continue to fight for increased rates for assigned counsel across the state. I served as an assigned counsel for 17 years when I was in private practice. So this issue is very near and dear to my heart. And yes, I started in the assigned counsel realm when we made $25 an hour and $45 an hour. And now at $65 and $75 an hour, it's just not enough. It's not possible for attorneys to represent clients, maintain law practices, and do their work without sufficient compensation. So we have filed, as Dick mentioned, and continue to litigate the lawsuit that we hope will inspire the increase in the rates of these panel attorneys. All we're asking is that the attorneys across the state that are working in the state courts get paid the same amount as their counterparts working in the federal courts. Because after all, aren't we all attorneys? Is there a difference, really? So, the shortage of attorneys on the panels leaves those remaining with heavy caseloads and inadequate resources who choose to stay. The increase in compensation will lead to more attorneys who are willing to take the workload, and this, of course, will lead to more effective and better representation to the children and indigent adults in the criminal and family courts of our state. The failure to increase these rates will impact and does impact access to justice across the state for people of color and our people living in our marginalized communities. We know this is a constitutional right, and we stand committed to fight for equity for all assigned counsel across New York State. We urge and we hope that this issue will be addressed in the state's budget and that our request will be granted. So it is now my great honor to introduce Minister Mike Freer to address you with some remarks from the United Kingdom. Minister Freer is the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for the Ministry of Justice in the United Kingdom. As the Undersecretary, Minister Freer oversees the courts, legal services, and international engagement. He is also a longtime member of Parliament, representing the North London neighborhoods of Finchley and Golders Green in the House of Commons. As I mentioned, we've had the pleasure of meeting several times in London this year. He is joined today by representatives from the British Consul General's Office, Ben Brierley, Senior Policy Advisor for New York, and Tom Nichols, Deputy Consul General to New England. He is also joined by Kiri Kriason, U.S. Ministry of Justice, Head of Legal Services, Trade and Promotion, and by, of course, our good friend and somebody who has supported the work of this association through the Law Society of England and Wales, Michael Padu, International Policy Advisor from the Law Society. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Minister Freer.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I just wanted to, before I've got some formal remarks, I drive my officials mad. They always write me formal notes and I go off pitch dreadfully. But I have to say I was very impressed with the ceremony this morning in terms of the debate between the Chief Judge and the Attorney General. I have to say, I'm not a lawyer, so I have to tell you, as lawyers, you all drive me mad because I sat and listened to two lawyers and I agreed with both of them, and I'm not quite sure if that's what's meant to happen. But I have to say, if the quality of your judiciary is what I saw today, then you're in very safe hands. It was very impressive in terms of the quality of thought that went behind the remarks, but also I have to say the passion. And I say, and okay, if I may be a bit personal, both the Chief Judge and the Attorney General, very different styles, but none less passionate for that. And if I may, again, if you'll indulge me on a very personal matter, as a gay man, the comments on equal marriage, I think struck home as someone who was very heavily involved in the equal marriage debate back in the United Kingdom. The pursuance of one person's rights does not diminish another person's rights. And so thank you as a judiciary for what you've done. So what reason, please say to me, why have you come to Albany? I gather that this is not a hot spot for ministerial visits. Although I have to say, and this is where I will embarrass one of my colleagues from the Consul General, we did get full service criminal justice system. We did get pulled over on the way up. But I think the British accent kind of got us off. I think we were driving too cautiously. I think that was why we were pulled over. But the reason why I wanted to come today wasn't just because I do regard our work together as work of friendship. We have so many things in common. We've talked about the use of AI, we've talked about use of technology, about bridging that digital divide, about reaching out to underrepresented groups who can't afford access to justice, or those who are physically distant, and the use of technology to bridge that gap. But equally, and if I may just pick on a point from the Chief Judge, the collaboration, I think, is a real opportunity for our two legal sectors. We are competitors on the international legal stage, but we are stronger for that. Competition is good. It keeps us on our toes, and it ensures that we are at the forefront of embracing new developments. And Sherry, you talked about the cyber, and certainly, if those of you who've never met our Master of the Rolls, we have some very strange titles in the UK. As one of our senior judges, he's really got the bit between his teeth, not just on law tech, but also on tech law, because the two have to go hand in hand. And that's where I believe that the UK legal services sector, and particularly the New York State Bar, are able to work together for our mutual benefit in a growing market. Because if I can be blunt, in the land of free enterprise, if we don't get there first, trust me, the competitors are there and are coming up behind us. We have market dominance now, but we won't have it forever unless we continue to do all that we can, particularly in issues of law tech and things like arbitration. One thing I do want to touch on is I do believe that where we do have some work to do together is where our lawyers are able to work together in each other's jurisdictions. 68% of foreign lawyers working in London are American. It's not quite the same the other way around. So we have a gap to fill. And the reason why I say that is because certainly in the United Kingdom, we want the finest legal brains. And frankly, we don't really care where they come from. We have an amazing legal sector in the UK. It is open for business. We allow foreign lawyers to practice. And because of that, it is vibrant and it is a world-leading global legal centre alongside New York. And I do believe that going forward, if we can harness the talent between our two legal sectors, both in New York but also in the United Kingdom, then I think that together we can be stronger than we will be apart. And on that last note, without banging the drum too much about the opportunities to break down barriers so that our lawyers can work together, I genuinely have been so impressed with what I've seen and what I've heard from Sherry in terms of the quality, and not just the legal sector in general in the United States, but the pro bono work. All of the issues that we've spoken about access to justice, about legal aid, I'm being sued as well, by the way, about, who's here from the Law Society? Yeah, they're suing me. But it's a common problem, and working together to ensure that our advocates and litigators are paid properly, also ensuring that those who are underrepresented have access to justice, I think is a common cause. And on the global market, and particularly in commerce, the access to the very best legal brains is essential for a functioning free market. That's why we have to work together, closer, and in further collaboration, Chief Judge, to use your words, because I do believe that we are stronger together. And thank you so much for your invitation today.
And now, thank you so much, Minister Freer, and it's really been a pleasure, and I appreciate everything that you said. I look forward to us all continuing to work together. So now, I would say that many of you in this room have been very excited to come here today to hear from our new Chief Judge, Judge Rowan Wilson. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Chief Judge Wilson, who has been, again, an amazing partner to the New York State Bar Association while he was a member of the court and now as he rises and ascends to the position of Chief Judge. Last month, the New York, was it last month? I guess it was, because today is now May 1st. We were just talking about this and it seemed like it was just a week ago, but it was about 2 weeks ago. The Senate confirmed your nomination. Breaking new barriers, bringing diversity, equity, and inclusion to the highest levels of our state government. And I might pause there for a moment. And for those of you who weren't at the Court of Appeals, I want to recognize that when you sat there today and you looked up at the table in front of the bench and then the bench, you saw the diversity that we have been striving for. And I was proud to be sitting there today amongst that excellent diversity. As you mentioned, Chief Judge, your Judiciary Committee testimony, it was the love of your wife, Grace, and her deep New York roots that kept you here in the state in those early years. There was so much else in that testimony, and I thought you were outstanding. The Chief Judge was questioned not only about the justice courts of our state, but about Happy the Elephant, which I think will be his legacy for quite some time. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, all you have to do is Google it and read the case. But Judge, we are so happy that you stayed here in New York rather than returning to your native California. And as you told the committee, so for better or worse, you're stuck with me. I wouldn't necessarily consider us stuck with you. I would say we're honored to have you lead us, and we are better for that decision. What followed in those early years was a distinguished career in private practice at Cravath, Swaine & Moore, becoming the first African-American to make partner in 1992. Governor Cuomo then selected you for the Court of Appeals in 2017. And as we know, Governor Hochul nominated you for Chief Judge earlier this year, and the Senate approved your nomination. Your jurisprudence demonstrates compassion, morality, and decency, and we know you will represent New York and its courts well. We look forward to working with you and strengthening the relationship between the bench and the bar. Welcome.
So the last 15 minutes have been something of a roller coaster because I've been giving so many speeches lately that I panicked and thought maybe I brought the wrong set of notes. But it turned out that I didn't, so then I was relieved. And then I heard Minister Freer and thought, you know, one of the benefits of being in this country is you don't have to follow people who sound that way. You know, but here you go. And then, you know, the lovely introduction from your president, you know, much too kind, much too generous. It also, you know, sends me in a little bit different direction. It does remind me that I owe an awful lot to my wife, Grace. So this is not the first time that I have attended the Pro Bono Awards ceremony here, but it's the first time I've spoken at it. And it's especially meaningful to me that I'm here delivering the address during the presidency of Sherry Levin Wallach, not simply because she's my friend, but because she's someone who has devoted herself to public service, to pro bono publico. And to have a public defender as the Bar Association's president is amazing, doubly amazing, because it's Sherry. I do also want to, I mean, they've been recognized, but my colleagues on the court are wonderful people. We have so much fun. Despite what you read in the press, we actually like each other very much. We joke around a lot. Judge Garcia is the principal jokester, but Judge Halligan has an opportunity to displace him. I'd like to spend some of my time today thinking about the word professional. At first, you might think of professional musicians, professional athletes, professional gamblers, or professional artists, but our colloquial understanding of professional has drifted from its origins. If we go back several centuries, the professions were those considered learned, as distinguished from skilled. So athletes, violinists, sculptors, and blacksmiths were not professionals, even though they might be highly skilled or world-renowned. If you go back further, there were only three professions: clergy, doctors, and lawyers. They're all learned occupations, but there is more to it than that. Professional and profession are both derived from the word profess. A professional was someone who professed. Both professional and profess are derived from the Latin professio, to declare openly. The three true professions were all ministers of a sort, using their learning to declare openly. Learned servants of God declared their faith openly and ministered to the soul. Learned physicians declared their cures openly and ministered to the sick. Learned lawyers declared their clients' cases openly and ministered to those in need of justice. The history of lawyers illuminates why lawyers are grouped with clergy and doctors as one of the three true professions. Diodorus, in his Bibliotheca Historica, wrote that the ancient Egyptians expressly forbade advocates at trials because they polluted the administration of justice. Lawyers emerged in ancient Greece, sort of. Like the ancient Egyptians, the Athenians initially forbade advocates, but gradually relaxed the rule so that a relative or a friend could appear on behalf of a party, but only if the party was ill or otherwise unable to appear. Of course, those relatives or friends were unpaid. It was not until the Roman Republic, with its elaborate system of laws, that lawyers, advocati, emerged as a profession. The Roman development of lawyers proceeded along two different paths, though both paths began with wholly unpaid representation. In the first path were orators. The Romans did not distinguish between orators who spoke on public matters and those who appeared in courts. In courts, those orators were permitted to speak for others on three types of matters only: matters that were pro publico, in the public interest, pro libertate, involving the personal liberty of someone, or pro pupillo, where guardianship or the rights of a child were involved. In the second path were patroni, patrons, wealthy and educated Romans in the early Republic, whose poorer relatives and other household members were clientes, clients. They had reciprocal duties to each other, among which were that the patrons would appear in court to represent the clients, again as a duty, not for pay. Those two strains led over several centuries to the profession of advocatus, advocates learned in Roman law who eventually received a fee for representing others. At the height of the Roman Republic, Marcus Tullius Cicero, the greatest Roman orator and perhaps the greatest orator in all of history, described the profession of lawyering as so king-like, so generous, so munificent as to bestow help on those who supplicate our aid, to raise the oppressed and save our fellow citizens from peril and preserve them to the state. Although the Romans developed the legal profession as those who would speak on matters of public interest, matters of personal liberty, matters where a child needed representation, and matters where the advocates had an ethical duty to the lesser member of their households, as Rome declined from a republic to a dictatorship, the role and reputation of lawyers also changed. The historian Ammianus Marcellinus lamented that the devolution of lawyers from the time of Cicero, when they shone preeminent in genius, honesty, and fluency, to those from the 4th century AD, whom he described as sowing every variety of strife and contest in thousands of actions, wearing out the doorposts of widows and the thresholds of orphans, and creating bitter hatred among friends, relations, or connections, merely to sharpen their mercenary mouths to mystify the truth. If we remember that the profession we have chosen is one whose genesis was to represent others not for compensation, but out of a duty or a sense of justice or a desire to act in the public good, it is very easy to conceive of what we now call pro bono work as a core element of being a lawyer. It is when we spend too much time focusing on the race for profits that we sharpen our mercenary mouths at the expense of justice. Those of you receiving towards today clearly understand that. Indeed, everyone attending today understands that, otherwise you would not be here. The challenge for all of us is to spread the good word, to profess that the core element of lawyering is helping those who need our learned assistance, whether they can afford it or not. If we fail in that challenge, the public reputation of lawyers will remain where it has been for the last many decades. A quarter as honest and trustworthy as doctors, and half as honest and trustworthy as the clergy. I applaud the New York State Bar Association for its persistent commitment to recognizing and encouraging pro bono work. I especially thank today's awardees for your commitment to the core of what it means to be a lawyer, and for the inspiring examples you have furnished through your work. Keep the faith.
Okay, well, good afternoon again. And now that you have some food in your bellies, we're going to go to the most exciting part, I think, of this program, which is the award presentations. And we're going to, for those of you who may have heard about an order, we're going to slightly change the order because our law students need to get to class. So we're going to start with our law student group, our law school group. And this award is to Outlaw, Albany's law school group that Dick mentioned in his opening remarks. And it really is quite an honor to have you with us. Albany law students formed Outlaw to serve the needs of the school's LGBTQIA+ community. Outlaw's mission is to educate the Albany law community on issues relating to the queer community, as well as to provide a safe atmosphere for LGBTQ individuals and their allies. This year, Outlaw is recognized for working with the Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York to help transgender individuals change their names. And also, I might add, whether you know or not, but the New York State Bar Association was instrumental in supporting the use of the LGBTQ plus bench card that was created by the Office of Court Administration, the 9th Judicial District, Judge Minahan, which is my judicial district, so I have to just do a little shout out there, and Judge James Heyer. But we at the New York State Bar Association adopted a resolution to support the use of that bench card. We then brought it to the American Bar Association and asked them to adopt a resolution that would not only that would support the use of a bench card, using ours as an example, of course, in all of the courts throughout the nation, and that resolution was adopted. So I'm happy to share it with you, thrilled to honor you. Come on up. I think that's quite an inspiring award to start off with. We now are going to honor our first Judicial District awardee, and that is Andrew Kistner. Andrew is a New York City attorney whose practice focuses on business insolvency. He has an active pro bono practice helping tenants when their landlords are in Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and has represented ICE detainees in asylum proceedings. Andrew? Our second district awardee, Annette Saviat, worked as a principal appellate attorney for the Appellate Term Second Department and retired in 2021. Before that, she worked as a staff attorney for 8 years at the Legal Aid Society of Rockland County, where she continues to volunteer in her retirement. Annette? Yeah, right? Our third judicial district awardee is Jonathan P. Whalen. Jonathan is a corporate attorney in Albany focusing on commercial transactions and real estate. Jonathan provides pro bono legal service advice to Capital Region clients under the Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York's Private Attorney Involvement Program. Jonathan? Our fourth Judicial District awardee, Martin Finn, is an attorney and certified public accountant and founder of the firm Laval and Finn in Schenectady. Mr. Finn advises clients on estate, financial, tax, and business issues. He is recognized for his volunteer work with Siena College and community service in the field of professional education in Schenectady County. Our fifth judicial awardee, Jennifer Powell of Fabius, recently retired following a 30-year career in legal public service in the New York State Mental Hygiene Legal Service and Department of Environmental Conservation. In addition to her service to New York State, Jennifer served as the officer in the U.S. Navy's Judge Advocate General Corps, stationed at Naval Submarine Base Groton, Connecticut. Groton. Somebody over there corrected me, and you're right, it's Groton. After I said it, I know that. Our sixth Judicial District awardee is Catherine A. Fitzgerald. Catherine is a member of Hinman, I know it's Hinman, Howard and Cattell in Binghamton, Dick Lewis's law firm, so he corrected me, practicing in matrimonial and environmental law. Catherine is recognized for her volunteer work at the State University of New York at Binghamton and the Roseland Conservancy Board. Our seventh Judicial District awardee is Carolyn Nussbaum. Carolyn Nussbaum of Rochester is a partner in Nixon Peabody's Complex Commercial Disputes Group. She is an experienced litigator in consumer and class action matters. She is a volunteer on the Commercial Division Advisory Council and the Pandemic Practices Working Group of the Commission of Reimagine the Future of the Courts. Yes. You. Our ninth Judicial District awardee is Ivan O. Klein. Ivan Klein is an experienced federal and state court litigator specializing in securities fraud, business contracts, and insurance disputes. In addition to his practice Mr. Klein counsels individuals and corporations on employment and contractual matters. There you are. Our 10th Judicial District awardee is Jeannie M. Henry, the principal of the law offices of Jeannie M. Henry in Ronkonkoma, focusing on education. That's Long Island, for anyone who doesn't know, because I'm from Long Island, so I know that. Focusing on education, matrimonial, and family law. Since opening her practice, Ms. Henry has dedicated hundreds of hours helping people with family law matters as part of the Nassau-Suffolk Legal Services Pro Bono project. Unfortunately, she's unable to attend, probably due to the torrential downpours and the closures of roads coming from Long Island. But she sends her thank yous and appreciation. Our 11th Judicial District awardee is Stephen David Fink. Stephen has a diverse practice with an emphasis on family law in the New York City metro area. He has been providing pro bono assistance to low-income residents of Queens County since the Queens County Volunteers Lawyers Project's inception. He is honored for his 45 years of service to the bar.
Oh, here we go.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Our Young Attorney awardee is Kristen Wool. Kristen of Westchester, that's my county, left a career in finance to raise her two young sons as a full-time at-home parent. After many years of community volunteering, she entered law school and interned at the Pace Women's Justice Center in White Plains. Following her graduation in 2020, Kristen continued volunteering at the Justice Center's walk-in clinic, helping abuse survivors navigate the legal system. Our Senior Attorney awardee is Eileen Katz. Eileen Katz of Buffalo made her mark in private practice and then committed more than 30 years of service in family law, working for Neighborhood Legal Services. Eileen has been involved in the gay rights movement for 50 years, while also volunteering weekly at the Center for Elder Law and Justice Senior Legal Advice Helpline. Our law student awardee is Felicia Gone. Felicia is enrolled in the Flex Time program at Touro University's Jacob D. Fuchsberg Law Center. Her work focuses on advocating for access to free and appropriate education for students with disabilities. This year, she gained valuable experience working in Toro's Education and Youth Justice Clinic and the Special Education Unit at the New York Legal Assistance Group. Our in-house counsel awardee is Arthur J. Siegel. Art of Albany has practiced law in the state and federal courts for the past 35 years and recently retired from private practice as general counsel to Bond, Shonek, and King. Art has devoted countless hours to the Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York in many leadership roles, including his current role as the organization's volunteer general counsel. Our small firm awardee is Surot Law. Surot Law, the award is being accepted by his nominee, Maria Valerie, as Michael is not able to attend, so she will be accepting on his behalf. Attorneys at Surot Law in Buffalo, with their exclusive focus on immigration matters, have an established network of partners around the world. This team of 9 attorneys and 22 support staff represent a diverse range of clients, from large corporations to small startups seeking initial funding. She doesn't want to. Okay, our mid-sized law firm awardee is Hodgson Russ LLP. This Buffalo firm is recognized for its tireless work on behalf of Afghan families escaping the Taliban and resettling in Western New York. With the help of the Erie County Bar Association's Volunteer Lawyer Project, Hodgson Russ attorneys and support staff work more than 1,000 pro bono service hours over 5 months. They prepared asylum applications as well as tax and benefit assistance to the new residents. Accepting the award on behalf of the firm is Megan Carrick. Finally, our large firm awardee is Cleary Gottlieb Steen and Hamilton LLP. In 2022, the firm logged 82,000 hours serving more than 600 pro bono and public service clients around the world. Cleary Gottlieb has focused on advancing racial justice, economic equity, and human rights through all its pro bono work. The firm also supports New York City's small business and nonprofits in transactional matters. Internally, the firm works with NGOs on refugee and humanitarian relief. Accepting the award on behalf of the firm is Catherine Hughes. Congratulations to all of this year's awardees. Oh, yes. The last and then the biggest award, and so sorry. And by the way, my dear friend, but I forgot. Sorry, Dorian. So I'm gonna edit this one a little bit. It is now my great honor to introduce the Vice Chair of the Committee on Attorney Professionalism, John-Claude Mazzola, with a presentation of the Attorney Professionalism Award. But before I do so, I just might take a moment of personal privilege for Dorian Glover. Dorian Glover and I went to the same the same school. I wasn't there in high school for the whole time, but Dorian was. We hearken from the Waldorf School of Garden City, where we spent many years of our lives. And it is really just an honor to have served along your side. He has served as the president of the Nassau County Bar Association. He has served on our nominating committee and been an amazing participating member of this association. But I now turn it over to Jean-Claude.
Thank you, President Wallach. It's my pleasure to present this award to Dorian. Our chairperson, Vivian Wesson, sends her apologies, and our subcommittee chair, Lucille Fontana, sends hers as well. Every year, and I've been on the committee for a couple of years, we get submissions for the Attorney Professionalism Award, and it's a tremendously humbling thing to read. You know, I read these things and I say to myself, when I grow up, I want to be like that lawyer. And it's even compounded, at least for me today, to listen to all the great attorneys in this room and all the wonderful things that they do to serve the community and give back to the community. And in my mind, that's really what it is to be a professional. And when we review these applicants, like I said, we're always humbled. We want to be like them one day. And of course, with Dorian, there was no exception. When we reviewed his application, we said, this is a professional. Now, although Dorian didn't know it, everything he did professionally was setting him up for this award. We know he's a great lawyer. We know he's great at the practice of law. We know he serves his clients with competence and zeal, and that goes without saying. But this award is not for the best attorney in the state of New York, and it's not a lifetime achievement award. We know Dorian has many, many years of great practice left in him. But for us, it's about honoring the lawyer that best typifies what it means in the committee's mind to be a professional. And when we talk about professionalism, we think about it as laboring in the vineyard, looking out for your colleagues, looking out for members of the bar, promoting an image of competence, promoting an image that will create the highest respect for the profession. We think of civility, we think of legal ethics, we think of competency, we think of honesty, we think about a commitment to the rule of law. But there's much more to it than that. Lawyers displaying professionalism are those that are committed to justice. They're committed to the public good. They're committed to improving the law, the legal system, and being sure that access is open to all. Now, when we talk about Dorian's successful practice, we could talk about that all afternoon. He was the Nassau County Bar President. He was an adjunct professor at Toro. That's all great. But what makes Dorian truly special in the minds of the committee and worthy of this award is how he gave and continues to give back to the community. He was a mentor at Jackson, Maine Elementary School and Malvern High School. He's now a mentor and coordinator at Barack Obama Elementary School in Hempstead. He has served as the legal advisor for the Valley Stream and Roosevelt High Schools and as a judge in the New York State mock trial competition. And as I said to Dorian earlier today, I said, if just one kid ever looked up to Dorian, and we know that there's been plenty of kids that have done that, and says to themselves, I want to be a lawyer. I want to serve the community. I want to advance justice for all. Then Dorian, in the view of the committee, is a professional and so worthy of this award. Thank you and congratulations, Dorian.
Sure, no problem. There's something else. So that pretty much concludes what we all came here for. And when I first started these festivities, I said these were the best of the best. And I think that what I said was true. These are wonderful people who do wonderful things for our community. And we appreciate them and we congratulate them. So I hope we can all now leave this room a little inspired and hopefully committed to doing what these honorees have done, and that is contributing to our Bar Association, to our profession, and to our communities. Thank you all for being here.